What if today is the day the Warriors stop asking for permission to be the Warriors? I'm serious. I'm asking you that straight up because I feel like we've all been living in this weird in-between space for the last year, where we talk about the dynasty like it's history class, but we also refuse to admit it's actually over. Because Steph Curry is still here, Draymond Green is still here, and the standard in this franchise is still rings, not moral victories. And then last spring hit us in the mouth. You remember exactly how it felt, because I felt it too. Steph on the sideline in street clothes in Minnesota, hamstring gone, hands in his pockets, watching instead of closing. Jimmy Butler on the floor, but clearly not himself, trying to grind through a back issue that turned him from playoff Jimmy into I'll try. But I don't have that extra gear tonight. Draymond still barking, still fighting, but those timber walls were long, meaning relentless, and we just didn't have enough firepower when it mattered. That was a 5-game exit in the second round, and for a team with our resume, 5 games is basically disrespect. That wasn't just a series loss. That was a message from the league. Your era is closer to the end than the beginning, unless you do something about it right now. And that's where this gets real. Because when a team like Golden State hits that point, when the injuries start to pile up in May, and the margins get too thin, and the defense, that used to feel automatic suddenly needs to be held together. With duct tape, you only have 2 choices. You can try to run it back and pray for health, or you can go hunting for something so big that it resets the math for everybody. What I'm about to walk you through is exactly that second path. It's not just noise. It's not just clickbait. It's 2 massive swings that show you exactly how this front office is thinking. Because after that Timberwolves series, the Warriors basically looked in the mirror and said, we either evolve or we fade. I'm going to break down how we got here before I tell you where this could be going, because I want you locked in with me on why this isn't just fantasy talk. First, the move that already happened. And I still don't think people around the league respect how violent that move actually was for our culture. When Golden State went and got Jimmy Butler midseason, that wasn't just about talent. That was about identity. The organization basically admitted, in public, we can't just live on vibes and clever spacing anymore. We needed another adult killer next to Steph, not in theory, but every single possession, every single timeout, every huddle. Butler gave us that edge, that playoff cruelty, that I don't care what the script says. I'm taking this attitude that honestly, outside of Draymond, we were missing against physical teams. It was a message to the rest of the locker room and to the rest of the NBA. We're not babysitting anymore. We're not on development time. We're still on championship time. You saw how guys reacted. There was a stretch late in the year where everything finally looked aligned. Steph cooking, Butler playing off him as a closer, Draymond organizing the backline, Steve Kerr finally able to throw out veteran lineups that could slow the game down and just strangle the last 6 minutes. And it worked. We dragged ourselves through a brutal first-round war and lived to tell about it. The plan was clear. Keep that core together. Let Steph get healthy. Let Butler get healthy. And take another run with real scars and real chemistry. That alone, if we're being honest, would have felt like a big swing in any other era of Warriors basketball. Because think about how far that is from the original script. The old version of this team was Steph, Clay, Draymond, and a rotating cast of wings that could hit open threes and switch on defense. Then came the Kevin Durant years, which broke the league. Then came the reboot around young guys, draft picks, trying to bridge eras without falling out of contention. But now we're in this weird age curve where Curry is still elite but 37. Butler is an elite competitor but dealing with mileage. Draymond is still the emotional engine, but he's not 27 anymore. And you can't just say, we'll figure the rest out in training camp. You need overwhelming force again. You need shock value. You need a piece so massive that it makes everyone else's job easier instantly. That's the second swing. That's the conversation that's shaking the league right now. And yes, I'm talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo. Before you roll your eyes and say, come on, every summer it's Giannis to somebody, let me walk you through why this version of the conversation is louder, more detailed, and honestly, more calculated than anything we've seen before. The Milwaukee Bucks are at a crossroads in a way we're not used to seeing from them. 3 straight first-round exits. That's not a typo. 3 in a row. We've watched a team that was built to bully the East suddenly look human the moment they run into speed, pressure, or injuries to the backcourt. We've watched Giannis put up absolutely ridiculous numbers. I'm talking 30-plus points a night, 15 rebounds, 6 or 7 assists, and doing it while shooting efficiently and playing both ends. And it still hasn't been enough. We've seen him walk off the floor in April, not June, more than once now. We've watched the depth of road. We've watched the Bucks spend heavy, spend into the tax over and over, flip big assets to chase another star guard, and still not find the answer. Damian Lillard came in as the supposed final piece, and then injuries hit, the defense slipped, and the core around Giannis suddenly felt old, expensive, and thin. Meanwhile, the rest of the East isn't scared anymore. Teams like Indiana are looking at Milwaukee like, we can run you to death. And we're not even in our prime yet. On top of that, for the first time in his career, Giannis has let it be known that he's at least willing to evaluate his future. He hasn't demanded a trade. He hasn't burned the city. He's not that kind of guy. He said over and over he wants to win more than 1 ring in Milwaukee, and he's backed that up by signing multiple extensions to stay. But quietly, for the first time, he's open to asking a real question. Is my best shot at multiple titles still here? With this roster, under this cap, after this kind of ending, or somewhere else? When a player of his level, a 2-time MVP, a finals MVP, a former defensive player of the year, a guy who literally dragged a small market team to a title in 2021, and then kept them relevant every single year after that, even allows that question to exist, every GM in the league stops what they're doing. Every single one. Because a guy like Giannis doesn't hit the market through free agency first. Guys like that hit the market when they decide they're willing to be moved. And here's the piece that matters for us. If Giannis ever forces that conversation, he can steer where he lands. He doesn't have a no-trade clause on paper, but let's be real. A franchise isn't sending out a generational face of the team unless they think they're doing right by him on some level. And that's where Golden State walks in. What's on the table right now? What people are really drawing up with numbers and names and years and not just slogans is a 3-team framework that would basically shock the league twice in one move. In this setup, Golden State ends up with Giannis Antetokounmpo in a Warriors jersey. Detroit ends up with Jimmy Butler as Cade Cunningham's veteran killer, the closer, the culture guy who drags you into a playoff series and dares you to back down. And Milwaukee, the team that will be losing Giannis, doesn't just get filler. They get young guards and wings and size. They get pick control stretching across the next decade. And they get flexibility. I want you to really hear what Milwaukee will be looking at in that concept. The Bucks would get Jaden Ivey, who's an explosive scoring guard with real burst and playmaking potential, plus Brandon Podziemski, who just became a fan favorite here because of how quickly he showed he can rebound, pass, and shoot in real minutes instead of garbage time. They'd also get Isaiah Stewart, a physical interior presence who can defend, hit bodies, and still stretch a little, and a veteran forward on a large contract like Tobias Harris, who's steady offensively and, more importantly, can be flipped again for more assets if Milwaukee wants to go even younger. On top of the players, Milwaukee will be looking at a mountain of draft capital coming from the Bay. First-round picks in 2026 and 2028, swaps in 2027 and 2031, and then another first in 2032. That is not a cute offer. That is a rebuild starter kit in one envelope. That's how you go from, oh my God, we just lost the best player in franchise history, to we actually have a path forward and some control over our own timeline again. That's the logic for the Bucks. It's brutal emotionally. It's unthinkable until it's not. But if Giannis tells them it's time, they at least have an exit strategy that isn't just misery. Now look at Detroit's side. The Pistons' thinking in this kind of construction is pretty easy to understand. They've been stacking talent. They've got Cade Cunningham. They've got young energy. They've got that fearless attitude. But you still need a star with playoff scars to teach you how to actually close games when the floor shrinks. Butler is that. He's older. Yeah. He's got miles. Yeah. But his entire brand is playoff credibility. He drags teams past what they're supposed to be. That Pistons group is young and aggressive, and the East right now is not impossible to climb. You add Butler without giving up your entire future in picks, and now you're not just fun young team. You're dangerous. So Detroit gets a level up without breaking its own build. That all sounds cute, but let's talk about the only part you actually care about. What happens if Giannis lands in Golden State? Picture Steph Curry fully healthy, moving without the ball, setting screens, forcing defenses to send two bodies 28 feet from the rim because they're terrified of the jumper. Now picture Giannis with space to attack downhill, catching the ball on the move instead of having to bully through three guys at the nail every single possession because Milwaukee's offense bogged down. You can't double both of them. You just can't. If you load up on Curry like teams have been doing for a decade, Giannis is stepping into gaps and living at the rim. If you wall up against Giannis, Steph is walking into relocation threes with more air than he's had since the Durant era. And we haven't even talked defense. Giannis gives the Warriors something they honestly haven't had even at their peak, which is a true elite all-court switchable eraser with length, strength, and recovery speed at that size. Draymond is still the smartest defensive mind of this generation, but he's not 25 anymore. You put Giannis next to him, and suddenly the Warriors can go back to that suffocating, shape-shifting coverage style where they just take away what you like and dare you to beat them with your third option. That's what wins in late rounds. That's what travels in Game 5 on the road. And if you're thinking long-term, that's the part that might actually be the scariest for the rest of the league. Because this isn't only about Steph's last chapter. This is also about what comes after Steph. Harsh truth is that the Warriors are in that late stage where you can't just say, we'll figure it out in the draft. The draft picks we're talking about in this idea, 2026, 2028, 2032. Those are the exact chips the front office will be throwing into the middle of the table. That's a long commitment. The team would basically be saying, we are betting the entire bridge from the Curry era into whatever comes next on Giannis being the guy who carries the badge. That's not a soft reset. That's a handoff of the franchise. And I want you to sit with that for a second, because that's why this is not just some fake rumor that disappears in 24 hours. This is legacy level. This is Steph Curry spending the final years of his career not just chasing one more ring, but actively choosing who he's leaving the keys to. And I'll be real with you, as much as we all love the young guys here, as much as we all respect what Brandon Podziemski did stepping into heavy minutes and playing like he belongs, if you ask 10 front offices around the league, who do you want to build your next 5 years around, Podziemski and a stack of picks, or Giannis Antetokounmpo in his prime? You already know the answer. We all know the answer. There's another layer to this that matters, and it's personal. Giannis and Steph are represented by the same agency, and that matters in modern NBA politics. Relationships matter. Trust matters. Visibility matters. Giannis has made it clear in the past that he's loyal, that he doesn't like the optics of forcing his way out, that he doesn't want drama. He has said that if he ever left Milwaukee, it wouldn't be because he quit on the city. It would be because the franchise couldn't realistically compete for what he expects from himself. Multiple titles, not just one storybook run. And right now, coming off another early exit, with the roster getting top-heavy and with one of his co-stars already dealing with a serious injury, That's the exact kind of situation that pushes a superstar to ask for a new path. So here's the heart of it, and I'm talking directly to you now, because you're part of this conversation whether you like it or not. Are you willing to do it? Are you willing to watch this team move Jimmy Butler again after the emotional investment we just made in him as the tough, fearless partner Steph deserved? Are you willing to give up Paul Jimski and a stack of unprotected future picks deep into the 2030s, knowing those picks could be painful if the team falls off later? Are you willing to say, yes, we are going all in on a Curry-Giannis core today and then a Giannis-led core tomorrow, and we'll deal with the consequences in 5, 6, 7 years? Because that's what this type of move really is. It's not 2K. It's not fantasy. It's a declaration of identity. It's the Warriors saying, we don't fade quietly. We reload with another generational force, and we dare you to stop us. And I'll tell you why I think this exact proposal, this exact shape, is the most believable version we've seen. It actually gives all three teams a reason to say yes. The Bucks don't feel like they're getting robbed. They're getting multiple young rotation pieces who can grow together, plus draft control that stretches across a timeline where Golden State might not be elite anymore, which means those picks and swaps could be insanely valuable. Detroit doesn't feel like it's selling off its soul to rent a star for 1 year, because Butler walks in and instantly changes their ceiling in the East without the Pistons having to outbid a bid market monster in free agency. And the Warriors, man. The Warriors instantly go from, if Steph is healthy, we've got a puncher's chance, to every single team in the league has to redraw their board if they see us in a playoff bracket. That's how dramatic this is. And let me add one last piece here before I throw it to you. We like to talk about Durant joining in 2016 as the craziest moment in modern NBA roster building. And it was insane. It broke the sport. But if this ever happened, if Giannis Antetokounmpo, a 2-time MVP who is still smack in the middle of his prime, actually lands in San Francisco via an all-in structure like this, it might honestly top even that. Because Durant joined a 73-win core that was already in its prime. Giannis would be coming into a proud, aging core that refuses to die. And in one move, he'd be extending that window and creating the next one at the exact same time. That's not just money. That's legacy architecture. So here's where I stand right now. I don't think this is reckless. I think this is calculated. I think the front office knows exactly how thin the margin is with Steph's health and Butler's mileage and Draymond's minutes. And they also know exactly how rare it is to even be in the same sentence as a player like Giannis. To me, this isn't just the Warriors want a star. To me, this is Golden State saying we will not allow the dynasty to be a memory piece. We're either writing another chapter with one of the best players of his generation, or we're going down swinging so hard the whole league feels it. And now I'm asking you, because we're family here on Warriors News Fan Report, and I want your voice on this, do you push that button? Do you send out Butler, Podziemski, and basically mortgage draft picks from 2026 all the way to 2032 for Giannis, knowing it could give Steph a real shot at ring number 5 and hand the franchise to a 30-year-old monster for the next era? Or do you say no, keep the depth, bet on health, and trust that the group we already have, if finally healthy all at once, can still get through the West, get past the Minnesotas and Denvers of the world, and win one more the hard way? Tell me in the comments right now, because I want to read this from real Warriors fans. Are you willing to trade the future for the present and the next present at the same time? Or is that too much even for you? I'm going to close with this. From where I sit, this is the clearest sign yet that Golden State isn't done chasing banners. The first giant move was bringing in Jimmy Butler and proving we were still serious about rings, not rebuilds. The second giant move could be the one that shakes the entire league, a path that puts Giannis Antetokounmpo in blue and gold, forces Milwaukee into a full reset, and dares everyone else in the West to deal with Steph Curry, plus a player who can completely own the paint, the glass, and the defensive identity on day one. If that happens, that's not nostalgia. That's not respect for the dynasty. That's the dynasty refusing to leave. Drop your take below, because I know you've got one. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and turn on alerts, because I'm here every day walking you through what's real, what's posturing, and what actually positions the Warriors to hang another banner. This isn't a rumor mill channel. This is where we track power. Stay with me, because if this front office actually pulls the trigger on something like this, we're going to live it together in real time.